Hi guys, it's David at Humble Trekker channel. How are you doing today? Welcome to the full test of the Ka Bar 1236 Bowie. I've got a full test protocol to run through today on this Bowie knife. We'll start off with a rope cut, then we'll move on to a fire make to test light carving, light cutting of wood. Then we'll go to hard carving where I'll be notching, following by batoning, vertical batoning. Then we'll have cross batoning, cross grain batoning. Then we'll do a little bit of throwing because it is a Bowie knife and you should be able to throw a Bowie knife. Following up the final test, the tip test. We'll see how it all goes and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll do an initial sharpness test. It does come very sharp from the factory. There you see, so there's our test cuts. Oh, that's my fault, I think. But so we can test it. After each test we can come back on a piece of paper and see if it's still slicing very well, like it is now. This is nylon mooring rope. Good, we'll go through two sections. Didn't quite go through that one. Let's try that again. So it didn't go through really quickly. It's a little bit just awkward. Okay, slice through nylon mooring rope. I forgot one test from the test protocol. I realised when I was getting the rope. Chopping. Of course we've got to do a bit of chopping with it, so that'll come in. I'm going to prepare a fire now, and to use the knife I'm going to do some light cutting. I'm going to cut some small tinder off this piece of spruce. But before I do that, I want to show something about the knife that's already happened in the time I've been using it, which is cutting that piece of rope in the time I've had it in storage. Let me put my microphone close to this. You hear that? The knife is rattling. And what is causing the rattle is the pommel is a little bit loose. The pommel is attached, I don't know if you can see, there's a rivet that goes through the pommel just here. It's maybe not be picking up on the camera, but there's appears to be a rivet going through the pommel, which I assume is attached to the full tang. This is claimed to be a full tang. It doesn't look like it to me, but just by the way it goes into the handle, it looks like the tang reduces down greatly. So it's actually more of a stick tang. But anyway, the pommel is moving backwards and forwards. I'll put it next to the mic and see if you can hear the rattle. So that's already loose. Oh look, that way you can probably see it moving. So that's not a good sign. Anyway, that being said, let's use the sharp bit of the blade and make some curls that we use to make the fire. It's a nice slicing effect. Slicing through this very nicely. Next I'll collect some shavings of fat wood to get the fire nice and started, and then I'm not going to start the fire on this stump top. We'll move it down to the fireplace. We'll just get the fire going, so I've got a little bit of a cosy factor as I perform the rest of the tests. So it's slicing this fat wood nice and well. It doesn't have a sharp spine, so you can't use the back to make shavings. You could use the real edge to make shavings. I couldn't use the knife to strike a ferrocerium rod using the back of the blade because it's not got a sharp edge on the back. It would just rub off it, and I don't want to use the sharpened edge just because that would potentially dull it and spoil some of the rest of the test. So I'm going to go true bushcraft style and use a lighter because that's my preferred method of starting fires. The notch testing will be a couple of standard tests that I've used through the years. I'll start off making a 7 notch So that's a vertical cut in, then coming across at about a 30-degree angle to make what looks like a 7 from the side, and then I'll do a cabin notch or a square notch, that's 2 square sides cut across like that. The way to start a 7 notch, and by the way, this is a piece of cherry, this is hardwood. I'm testing this knife, I could do this on a piece of spruce or pine, but I'm just going to get cut to the chase. This is cherry, this is hard. I test nearly all my knives on a piece of cherry like this when I really want to test the edge, because this will show up any weaknesses. So it's all up to the knife now. When you have a 7 notch, you start off with, well, you can start any way you want, but a good way of starting is coming down on the vertical one, and then that gives you the guideline and you can cut across to it. So you cut in as far as you want to go, how deep you want the notch to be. And I want this to be deeper, but it doesn't want to go. I'm going to have to hit it harder. So what you do is you make a slightly deeper vertical cut to get down to your required depth, and you keep coming across at it from the 30-degree angle side. It's actually carving quite nicely. I mean, the blade itself, there's no damage, immediate damage. This guard means this knife is not going to be a comfortable carver, because when you carve, this sticks right into the crook of your thumb and your forefinger here, and after time that was going to be really, really uncomfortable. But the blade itself is handling this hard piece of wood, no damage to it. What this cherry will do, if you've got a weak edge, it will basically turn it virtually immediately. That's why I use this cherry. I like to play with a cherry. So that would be something you'd use on a tent peg or something like that. You could put a piece of rope under that and secure your tent. The square notch starts the same. You approach it from 2 ends. So you'll start that side, and then however long you want your notch to be, let's make it this long. You come in again, like that. No fuss, no muss. And then you approach both your vertical stops from the inside out, so to speak. And this is hardwood, so you've got to start off small. So you'd start that side, then you go to the other side. Yeah, and that guard is really starting to annoy me. There's the result of the square notch making. Gone about 40% of the way through, I guess. And anyway, that's the wood. How did the knife stick up to it, stand up to it? That cherry will be merciless against weak edges, and I am pleasantly surprised. This edge has not rolled. Yeah, I see something here. Let me check this. I'm gonna have to go and get my eyeglasses because I can't quite see, but I think there are some chips in it. But it hasn't rolled, so it's chipped but not rolled. I would say potentially chipped. I'll double check this, but it's definitely not rolled. It's not a comfortable carver, but I'm really trying to test the steel here, and the steel seems to have done quite well on that cherry. It's not a carver because with this guard here, it kills you in the crook of your hand there. The pommel it's starting to, is a bit looser now after that work. Oh yeah, you can really see there's, say, like 1/3 of a millimetre space there at the top. Let's check the paper cut. Oh my God, it's getting windy. Still got an edge, good. So let's do a fine examination of this, and yeah, there is one very small chip in the edge of the blade. It's just there, you won't be able to see it on the camera. It is very, very small. So far from the test protocol, we've done the rope cut, the light carving to make tinder for the fire. We've done the hard carving on the cherry wood, a couple of notches, and apart from the pommel coming loose, I'm quite satisfied with the knife. I still don't know if it's worth the $60 to $80, but it's doing fine. So it wasn't a comfortable carve, that's to be sure. I wouldn't like to carve with it as a pastime, but in terms of the edge and the steel being strong enough to carve with, it was. So let's do something a little bit simpler now, which isn't going to hurt my hand so much, which is a simple bit of batoning. We've got something here about 2.5 inches. It's pine or spruce, softwood anyway. Let's go through it. So very nice. No problems there. Job well done. From the standard vertical batoning, we're now going to do some cross batoning. Cross batoning simply means you cut them across the grain of the wood. If you'd want to do this, if you wanted to make short sections, if you were making some sort of trap material or something like that, you have to excuse the chainsaw noise, I think it is, or it might be a weed whacker. People are cleaning up out here. And obviously this is a harder test on the knife because you're going across a tougher part of the wood to go through. But that's nice. We went through there, nice clean cut, very clean cut. Which you don't always get all the time with a hollow grind. Yep, nice. We'll do this one more time. Let's bring this up to the camera, show you the cut, cleanness of the cut. So there, very nice clean cuts through, and then I'll go back and check the edge on the knife. After that cross batoning and batoning, I'm pretty sure the edge is still sharp. Yeah, it is. Now we'll go for a bit of chopping. I've got this piece of pine, packing pine, come from some sort of packing, and we'll just give it a few chops, see what happens. Place it up here. You see this? Is this on the camera? It's not hidden by this one, is it? No. Okay. That was 10 chops, or 10 or 11. Got a little bit of the way through it. Should we go all the way through it? Yeah, why not? Clearly not a chopping knife, but we are testing it. Did I say I was going to go all the way through this? I'm beginning to regret that statement. Guess you could say this is where the hard test really starts. It did it. So when I think of a Bowie knife in terms of throwing, I'm thinking no spin, fighting. You're in, you know, the speakeasy, the bar, some Wild West town, some frontier town, and you want to get your knife into someone's gullet before they can get to you. And so, no spinning. You're not going to say, do you mind just moving back to 9 feet so that I can do the perfect spin into you? No, it's going to be close combat, no spin. It's going to be no spin combat knife throwing. It's actually got quite a nice balance. I've not even practiced with this. This is the first time I've tried. Literally, everything you've seen so far is all the times I've thrown with this knife. And I think I've only missed once when I came down into this on the first section of film before I started talking about the knife throwing. Love it! The final test, the tip test. The blade itself, the edge has stood up very well. Just one micro chip. No rolling, and it's stayed sharp all the way through this. I can't be bothered to find any hair, but I bet I could still shave hair with this. Still got a very nice tacky edge. The guard, still in one piece. The pommel, the pommel that was loose at the start has become looser. Now now you can actually see the word I'm looking for is tang. You can actually see the tang through the gap now. It's so loose. Shame. It's not falling apart. Right, let's do the tip test. Similar tip test I've done on other knives. Put it in there. I don't know if that's deep enough. I may have to hammer it in. I'm sure the pommel's not going to like this. Anyway, I'll just be gentle. And then holy moly. Just in case you want to do it again. That was 3 swings. And ladies and gentlemen, do you think it's bent or not bent? I'll give you 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. It's bent. So let's look at the bend. I've just moved the camera forward so I can sit on a stump. Can you see that? Now it's bending in this direction. Only a slight bend, but there is a bend in it. Let's give it a few more tip tests. Okay, this one, let's try this. And let's put it in there, and then I could have used that bit, couldn't I? Bang it in. Now, that's 3 more. The bend has increased. Probably you can see that now. It's coming over in this direction. Upon closer examination of this knife after the test, I've discovered that there's a gap now, let's see, between the blade and the handguard, which wasn't there before the testing. It's very small, but that's only going to open up with time and more use, and it's the same down the bottom. So the handguard is moving backwards. The whole construction is moving apart, obviously because the pommel now is very, very loose. So everything is going to be moving apart. There's nothing holding this handle tightly so the blade is separating out there from the hand guard. Let's take a look at the sheath. The sheath is made from leather, a cheap grade leather, and it's got very bad fit, very bad quality sheath. The knife will just fall out of this. There's a very small plastic insert in there. The sheath is not built to fit this knife. It's some kind of generic sheath, and there's a snap up here which isn't even tight to the handle of the knife. So the sheath doesn't do this knife any favours whatsoever. But let me make a conclusion overall of my testing of this knife now. If you're not a watcher of my channel, you wouldn't have known maybe that I've already done a review of this knife without testing it, and I basically called it as a piece of junk because of the quality of the sheath, because of the fit and the finish of the blade going into the hand guard here in the hand, and because of those reasons and the price the knife goes for. It's got an MSRP of $80 in the US, and if you're in Europe like I am, you have to pay even more than that for this knife. Even with the deals like on the knifecenter.com, this is still around a $65 knife. So it's not a cheap knife by any means. If you've watched my channel, if you've watched any reviews of knives on YouTube, you'll see that you can get literally dozens of extremely high quality fixed blades from Chinese manufacturers and from European manufacturers from around the $20 to $30 range. So this knife is like twice as much as a really, really tough bushcrafting, outdoorsy hunting, camping knife that you can get. So that's what I was comparing it to. When I called this junk, it was very much strongly based on the price and the sheath. You should get a working sheath with a knife these days. It's just inexcusable to give that kind of sheath out. And also the name, the brand, this is a ʻkeɪ knife. ʻkeɪ has got a long history, and I think when people get a ʻkeɪ knife, they expect it to be top drawer, not bottom drawer. So after that video, I came in for a little bit of gentle criticism. I think it was fair enough. That how people said, how could I really judge it without testing it? So I've come back out and I've really tested it. And this is my conclusion. I'll start with the positives first. When I did do the tip test as well as bending it, also rolled the edge there. I'll just point it out. Let's start with the positives. The strength of the edge, the retention, how it managed to retain its sharpness, and it didn't roll through the carving, impressed me. I will say that. I'm not going to deny that at all. I have tested many knives on that exact same hard piece of cherry. I've got a bunch of it stored away, and I know it's hardwood, and that will turn the edge of any knife that isn't up to par, and it didn't on this knife, so that's a plus. Big negative, as soon as I took this out this morning, which I hadn't noticed in the previous video, so I've never used this knife for anything apart from hanging on my wall, was that the pommel was slightly loose before I'd started any testing. And now after these tests, the pommel is extremely loose. I mean, this is annoyingly loose now. You can actually see the tang going through it, and it's not a full tang, it is just a stick tang. You shouldn't expect that on any knife. Not even, and this was loose before I started using it, so this isn't a result of the testing I've done today. This is just it's become worse due to the testing. And if you can imagine what I did with a knife today in this video, maybe you wouldn't do that yourselves all in one day, but over the course of a year, if you use this knife for a year, you're going to do those kinds of things. You're going to have that amount of wear and tear on it. So straight out of the box, add a loose pommel, and if you start to use this knife, it's going to get looser and looser, and that's not acceptable. The carving comfort wasn't comfortable to carve with, but I'm not going to criticise the knife for that. It's a Bowie knife, it's not a wood carving knife. The batoning, actually really good. It did baton fantastically, both vertically and cross. Knife throwing, it was a lot of fun to throw, no spin. This got this smooth pommel, so when you throw it, it's got good balance too, so it's got a little bit of heft to it. And then when you comes out, you can actually use if you do a lot of knife throwing, if you've done some knife throwing, you know what I'm talking about here. But you want to get like a release from the hand, but which is controllable, so it's got like a slide out your hand. And with this pommel, smooth pommel, it does slide out your hand really well, so you can you can guide it as you're throwing it. Really nice. Tip test, yeah, that was a hard tip test, I'm not going to deny it, but it did bend it. I've done tip tests on dozens of knives where the tip hasn't bent. So you take that as you want to take it, whether you think it was a too hard a test or a fair test. The tip did get bent. Final conclusion. This knife is nowhere near $60. Even if $60 when you get it, you know, on a deal, let alone $80 MSRP. No knife in this day and age, when you've got so much quality you can get so cheap, should have a loose pommel. That's just totally unacceptable. How we've managed to go through 10,000 years of evolution and people can't design a pommel that don't get loose is just ridiculous. So, big neg over that. If this knife was, say, $25, the pommel was tight, the sheath was decent, I think it'd be worth it. That would put it on a par with a bunch of other Chinese manufactured knives. And this is manufactured in Taiwan. It's just ʻkeɪ is an American company. Well, it used to be, it's probably just some huge global company now. So, if the sheath was good, if the pommel wasn't loose, I would put this at a $25 to $30 knife all day and I'd say go and buy it. But because the pommel is loose, the sheath is garbage, and it costs at least $60, I can't recommend it. Thanks for watching, guys. Until the next time, have a great one.